Hi, I'm Erin Power.
And I'm Laura Rupsis.
We're certified health coaches, and this is Health Coach Radio.
This podcast is about the art, science, and business of health coaching.
We share our insider tips to help you become a better coach and entrepreneur.
And we interview expert guests to discover how they've made it in this growing field.
It's time for health coaches to make an impact.
It's time for Health Coach Radio.
Today on the show, we're welcoming Natalie Gensits, a wellness content writer and copywriting coach. Hallelujah for coaches like Natalie teaching us how to write copy that will get our clients excited to work with us. Natalie spent several decades in marketing and advertising, creating marketing assets for clients large and small. Like many of us, a wellness breakthrough led her to inspect her career path and make a jump. Now, she applies her copywriting prowess to help health and wellness coaches truly reach their ideal client through the power of relationship marketing. Natalie helps coaches grow their wellness businesses by either writing for them or coaching them to learn how to write client-focused content themselves. We would love to have you screenshot your podcast player and tag us on Instagram at Health Coach Radio. By the way, the show notes for this episode and all previous episodes of Health Coach Radio can be found at primalhealthcoach.com/radio. When you write content that speaks to your ideal client in a way that makes sense to them and compels them, they can't wait to work with you. And that's the best way to really get started at building a coaching practice that makes a difference. From there, what can help you grow your business once those clients come in the door is being a really good coach. And this is exactly what I teach our students in the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course. Not only will you learn and practice advanced coaching skills, but this course also satisfies the educational requirements to enable you to sit for the NBC HWC credentialing exam so you can become a board-certified health and wellness coach like me. Stay tuned to the end of the show where Laura, also board-certified, will explain a little bit more about what we teach and how and why. In the meantime, head to primalhealthcoach.com/level2 to get more info. We know that you'll find yourself feeling totally fired up to write some copy after this episode. In fact, that's our encouragement to you. Write something and post something today. You'll get tons more great content marketing advice and encouragement from our conversation today with Natalie Gensits. Welcome, Natalie. How are you?
I'm great, Erin. Thank you. How are you?
Doing good, thanks. We're really pumped to talk to you today, and we just want to dive in. The best place we like to start is by having our listeners get to know you. So why don't you give us the little, few-minute speaker bio, the story of Natalie?
Sure. Thank you for having me, both of you. I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to share. I'm Natalie Gensits. I'm a wellness content writer and copywriting coach. I've been in marketing and advertising my entire career, so about 27 years now. That's what I went to school for, and I've had lots of different entrepreneurial jobs, doing all different kinds of things in the marketing world. I've also worked for ad agencies, in writing, but also in many different aspects. So I've kind of seen the gamut, what a lot of things that do work and a lot of things that don't, and how the scene has changed over the years. Along that, I started freelance writing in about 2013. So that's when my writing really started to take off and focusing on the writing aspect. I was also having a wellness journey at the same time. So fast forward that a few years, I was like, why am I retaining all of this information about nutrition? Because it's so overwhelming. What am I supposed to do with this? How do people navigate this? I want to simplify it. So that's when I wrote a book about eating healthier and started doing talks around that to my community. And that was really against my grain. I was so out of my comfort zone, but I just was feeling led to do that. So I did. And that then inspired me to consider health coaching. But then I thought, is that really what I'm supposed to be doing? That doesn't feel like it. So I decided that I was feeling led to combine my passions for writing and wellness and write for the wellness industry at that time. So meanwhile, I've done a lot of the trial and error that I'm going to talk about today, probably, and have focused more to support health coaches specifically. So that way I'm helping more people become well, but I'm doing the writing behind it, not the actual health coaching.
Oh, wow. Actually, we have very similar backgrounds, like almost to the letter.
Really?
Just going to say that. Yep.
Yeah, we do.
Oh yeah, I did see that you had marketing experience too.
Yeah, I did marketing and advertising agencies and all that stuff too. And what I think is so neat, and I'd love for you to speak to this, is like I actually got my start in like 1997 as a copywriter. But that's not what I did then is not what copywriting is now, like at all. So why don't we do some definitions here? Like for the health entrepreneur, what is copywriting and why is it important?
Sure. Yeah. So copywriting as we know it today is more focused on the writing, well, obviously the writing, but it's more focused on the individual rather than the masses. And I think that's especially important in the wellness industry because it's a personal journey people are on. Your potential client is, either just kind of on the edge with anxiety. They might be completely in despair over whatever they're dealing with. So you don't want to overwhelm them with too much information, and you want to really make it personal because for that reason, you don't want to overwhelm her or him. I'm going to probably say her a lot because want to be so focused on one person. I like to use that when I talk too. Lead by example, right? But also more than that, you need to let that person know you're willing to get into the weeds with her, right? You're not just broad helping with wellness out there, just making a broad statement of helping her with wellness. You're also letting her know you know exactly what she's going through in this very moment, and you're able to help her through those moments. And so that's what copy is all about, meeting your potential client on the journey. And then you use copy to build content with. So copy is typically more, it can be more salesy, like the landing pages and things like that is what people think about today as copy versus content. But when you're building your content, you have to write copy for that. So that's where the copywriting comes in.
Thank you.
Copy versus content. That's interesting. I never thought to differentiate the two. Because we teach in our course, we teach the basics of content marketing, which, it has a lot of different names, like relationship marketing is how I learned it years ago. And like from a marketing perspective, we're maybe talking about our social media content or email content. And one of the ways I heard it described was it's like you're writing a letter to your ideal client. So the place you start is with that ideal client. So maybe we start there and work through what that's all about.
Sure, absolutely. And this has been a learning curve for me as well. So again, I want to help encourage coaches to really niche down. And if you're not familiar with niching down, which I'm sure you guys, I know you've covered it a lot, but niching down, just to reiterate, is really focusing in on a person that you're targeting rather than a group of people. And that's where you come up with your ideal client, which is also possibly called your persona or your ideal client avatar. So those are all terms to refer back to your ideal client. And your ideal client is like the one person that you really want to help. You want to know as much as you can about this person. You want to think about their normal day. What do they value in life? What does she not like? What are some of the things that she does or values for work? And just kind of get to know her like you're sitting across from her having coffee and with your friend, and know as much about her as you can. But the two things that I always say that you want to know more than anything, and one is the biggest struggle she's facing, the biggest pain point, or the biggest challenge. It's all used interchangeably. So what is that pain point that she's wanting to overcome at this point? And the second thing that you want to find out about your ideal client is, where does she hang out? Where does she get her information? Because if she's on Facebook, then you don't want to be on Instagram. You don't want to focus your time on Instagram if she's on Facebook. And you just need to figure out where she is, what is she listening to, or is she listening, or is she watching videos? Is she reading articles? Which does she prefer? And all of that gives you insight on where you can meet her at her journey and how. Is audio the best? Is video? What does she prefer? And I think the mistake a lot of coaches, and just any entrepreneurs make, is that they don't niche down far enough. It's against our grain, kind of. It seems counterintuitive, right? Because I don't want to be boxed in. I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I don't want to not help someone that needs help. But the ideal client can change as your business changes, and you just need to kind of stick with it. And that helps you stay in your lane and filter out the noise that you otherwise can be scattered with, focusing on too many things at one time.
Yeah, you can help everybody, but when you're speaking, putting content up, you have to be really specific.
Right. What's funny is I think what people will often find, folks that have finally done that, they've made themselves uncomfortable enough and really got specific and found that their business exploded. And it exploded not necessarily because everyone from that fit this exact avatar were drawn to them, but from a standpoint of marketing and messaging, they were specific enough that somebody who has that same problem was like, that's exactly it. She totally gets it. Right. So, you don't have to be out there saying that I am specifically targeting a 35-year-old woman with 3 children and a full-time job who CrossFits too much. I'm talking about myself, by the way, but it's about like back in the day, right? You don't have to be that specific saying I only work with these people, but from a mental point of view, as a mental exercise and a marketing exercise, you're talking to her. And lo and behold, there's probably 5 other different demographics that have a very similar kind of blueprint or personality or problem. So just to support what you're saying, this is from a marketing point of view. I promise this will not limit you, because I get this question a lot on the phones, just relative to our program is this going to pigeonhole me somehow? Am I not going to be able to grow? And I'm sure you hear that all the time too.
Right. Yeah. It's just against our normal instinct, I think. But in the reality is exactly what you're saying. You are going to end up reaching other people as a result, and you don't turn them away. You don't deny them. You're just focusing your messaging, and your messaging comes out. We are talking about copy a lot, but it comes out whether you're using it in video or audio as well, because it all begins with the words that you're using. So that's definitely.
Yeah, I had never considered, even you're kind of talking about the medium. Like, does this client like to read, watch videos, or listen? I never thought about that either. So what kind of exercises do you take your clients through to help them uncover this stuff about their ideal client?
Yeah, I have a set of questioning that I go through with them and really help them to focus on one thing at a time as far as answering each strategic piece. So I walk them through an elevator pitch exercise, really figure out who you are and why you're doing what you do. We talk about the ideal client a great deal, and I really like focusing on like a 10-word elevator pitch, because it really makes you get focused. You can always expand upon it, right? Mm-hmm. And then move on to the ideal client. But I also will backpedal to the elevator pitch once you hone in on the ideal client, because you may want to tweak your elevator pitch accordingly. From now I can say that I help health coaches specifically versus just wellness entrepreneurs, because I've had my own trial and error in my business and learned that's not, chronic pain is not necessarily niching down. It's niching down it's one step, but it's not all the way. And, me niching down from wellness entrepreneurs to health coaches is another step in that process. But sometimes it's a lot of learning curve I'm trying to shorten that learning curve for you guys.
But wow, 10 words, boy, that's gotta be tough. So I did we call it a unique value proposition. That's a term I used in another career term I had heard. And we were doing a webinar about how to build one, and holy cow, are they wordy and verbose? It's like they kind of feel like they have to get in every single piece of what it is they do into this. And the next thing you know, it's 4 sentences. And I'm like, what? You're not going to be able to address that in an elevator. I'm saying in air quotes, not that people can see me, but you're going to lose people the minute you launch into this diatribe. It sounds pitchy. I love the idea of a 10-word elevator pitch. Oh, what's that exercise like? And what do people, here's my question. How do you arrive at those 10 words? I'm assuming they probably start broader, wordier, and you've really got to get it down to the fundamentals, right? What's that like?
Well, and I just, I coach them through this. I kind of coach them through steps and then let them walk away and come up with it on their own typically. And I'll help them wordsmith it. But I really don't like to intervene too much with what's coming from their heart, because I think that's a big piece of it too. It really has to come from your passion, who you're serving and why. But so those are big pieces of the elevator pitch that I coach through. What are you offering? Make a list. Why are you doing this in the first place? And who is it that you want to serve? Kind of make a list of those things, narrow it down a bit. And a lot of the times it involves walking away and letting it incubate, letting it process. Erin, I'm sure you've heard that before in the marketing days, right? You have to let it process and then come back to it. So, and to your point, Laura, like the elevator pitch that's longer. Yes, I agree. Like that's what I had to start off with. And then someone was like, you don't need to say how you do it in your elevator pitch, just say what you do. So you can start out with the what and maybe your why. That's part of it. It's maybe not in the words that you use, but it fuels the words that you choose. So, the what and a little bit of your why. The how can come later. If you decide that you need, help with content from me, then I'll tell you how that works. If you don't need content from me, then move on and we'll both be saving each other time, right? So yeah, shorter is better. And 10 words is, I'm using that as loosely. It can be under 10 seconds. It's just the point of being more concise. And the longer elevator pitches serve a purpose. When you're out networking, you have 3 minutes to talk about yourself. But when you're just trying to get a point across and see if anybody is interested in working with you, it needs to be more concise.
Yeah. I was going to ask you to give an example of a 10-word elevator pitch because I'm having a hard time even wrapping my head around it. But so what I heard you say is it's the what, the who, like who is it, like sort of is it like an I help statement? Is that kind of how you structure it?
Yeah, I do. So I don't even know how many words mine is for sure. I forget, but it's I help new health coaches find clients through content.
Wow. I love that. It's funny. I was having a conversation with somebody who wanted some feedback, Erin, on their unique value proposition. And they're like, I'm trying to fathom where I would ever use this. I go, look, just imagine for yourself, you're at a barbecue or literally in an elevator or waiting in line, whatever the case may be. And someone just says, what do you do? You don't launch into that. You'd say, I just tell people I'm a health coach. And if they're just being polite, if they're just asking what I do to be polite, it's going to end there. Oh, that's nice. Right. But chances are they might say, really, what does a health coach do? This is your opportunity to say what you do and leave it at that. Right. If they have even more questions, they will ask. But again, I kind of feel like it's like dealing with children. When they ask you a question, you give them a simple answer to just really kind of gauge their ability to understand and where their interest level really lies. And someone who's really interested in what you do will ask another question, and it gives you an opportunity to launch into that sort of longer description of what you do without kind of overtaking the conversation or losing somebody off the bat or coming across as too pitchy or anything like that. So I love the way you broke that down. Very simple, because it would immediately make me ask, awesome, tell me about that. How do you do that?
Right. Yeah. If you're in need, and if not, then you can decide that too. But then also, but the other benefit of that is if you're with somebody or you want to turn around and tell your friend that she might need me, you can tell that friend what I do, and you don't have to try to remember this 4-sentence thing that I just spewed out. It's like, I don't really know what she does. She said something about writing.
Right.
So
Yeah,
Exactly.
it brings to mind, like I've done these workshops before where the coach will help you craft your I help statement. And it always has this extra piece, like I help blankety blank achieve XYZ by doing this and without sacrificing that. What do you think about that sort of that extra bit? Is that necessary?
it depends again on when you're using it. So I think that's okay to go through those steps. I think it's helpful to go through those steps to get a bigger, because some people forget to tell about the results that you're going to help somebody get, that you're going to help your clients get. You don't mention the success you're going to bring her. So those steps are needed in order to get you to think around those points. But again, when you're just passing by, so to speak, in social media and email super quick, I don't think those are needed.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? So just kind of include your what plus your why you're doing this, or why you want to help. I want to help you get clients. As a health coach, I want you to overcome diabetes, whatever it may be. So I like to just think about the what plus your why to start off with, and then definitely adding those pieces I think is helpful as far as the longer elevator pitch version when you have more time. But when you narrow it down more, I think you're just doing yourself a service by getting that focused and then allowing yourself to expand back out from that.
Yeah. I was thinking, like earlier you mentioned chronic pain, how that's not really narrowed down enough. And I think I've had a lot of conversations lately with coaches who want to get into metabolic health. So, like, how do you help folks drill down from there?
That's a great question, because that's a stumbling point for a lot of people. And it's kind of hard to coach through that a little bit. But what I always do is bring it back to, why are you doing this? Why are you coaching? And a lot of the times, I just had this happen recently. Somebody was, telling me all these different things that they were going to do and help with. I mean, there were 3 or so. We had it somewhat narrowed down, but then I'm like, so tell me why. Let's go back to your why are you doing this? And she started to tell me a story about how she was sick, and then you could just see the light bulb go off. She's like, oh, like, I got to get back to that. And that is going to help me focus on who I want to, because a lot of the time, honestly, your ideal client ends up being much like yourself. If it isn't yourself, it might be yourself, but you still want to get the feedback from other of yous, other people who are representing that ideal client besides you, so you can get more feedback from that person and get a fresh perspective, because you're past that point now. So you may have forgotten what it's like to be in that position a little bit, kind of like I forget diaper mode, that's been so long.
Well, I have a question for you, because like my prior to career, I spent in finance, and I worked for a company who had he was a psychiatrist, neuro-linguistic specialist, hypnotherapist. He was also like a preacher. Like this guy was all about getting to the emotion and the root emotion that drives behavior. And we brought him on staff at my company to help train advisors to speak in this more emotional language in order to be able to reach their clients, because financial advisors in general are not that way. Very analytical, very unemotional, at least, in not necessarily personally, but as a profession and working with clients, they try to keep things very about the numbers. And that's not going to drive trust with your clients. Anyway, so we bring this guy on. He built out this entire model, and he's where I got this unique value proposition structure from that we were talking about. And a piece of the puzzle in here is, at the end of the day, what's the emotion that is driving the problem that they have? What emotion is that eliciting? And to try to keep that in your unique value proposition, not because you need to state it, but because you need to understand it. so that you can address it throughout your interactions with this client. But I could see it being extraordinarily useful from a marketing perspective, really understanding what emotion it is you're dealing with that's going to drive that sort of behavior. That we call it buying behavior, but really it's just, I guess, motivating the client to do something in their own best interest, to finally do something about it. What are your thoughts there? And Erin, I know you have a background in this too, so I'd love to hear your opinion too.
So yeah, as far as it is, emotion is one thing that I don't think has changed as far as the marketing industry. It's definitely needs to be about emotion, and I agree that it doesn't necessarily need to be stated in your elevator pitch. But yeah, to be in touch with that and in tune with that is definitely going to help. Again, drive more effective copy, because that emotional trigger is always what provokes the action and the behavior that you're hoping to see. You know, if it's not triggering that emotion, then it's not going to be effective. So I would definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about what was it? It was I had gone to a workshop, a copywriting kind of workshop, and this is like recently, since I've become an entrepreneur and tried to forget everything I thought I knew about marketing. And it was like, what's Harley Davidson's marketing tagline? It's not like motorcycles are like badass or anything like that. It's not, this technology is amazing, or we've been around for hundreds of years. It's the tagline. I don't even know what it is off the top of my head, and I tried to Google it quickly and I couldn't. Is about freedom. It's about the feeling of freedom. That's what Harley Davidson wants its customers to feel when they associate with that brand. They don't want to think about the machinery or the technology or the legacy even. It's the freedom you get from riding a motorcycle.
So let's imagine now that we've gotten to that understanding. How can you use that in content or in copy? And how can you express it?
The emotional piece that you're focusing on, that's a good question. Yeah. So I think you want to, it's kind of hard to explain and
I know
into words,
that's okay.
Right?
We got a while here.
Yeah.
So take your time.
You want to be able to think about that emotion, but you don't want to focus and just talk about that emotion, because then everybody's going to say, I want you to feel free of diabetes. I want you to be free of pain. I want you to be free. Right. So you still have to distinguish yourself, and how you do that and really resonate is to use the examples from your own story or from people that you've coached in those moments where they've felt that emotion. And, here's what it was like, when I had that first pain-free day, and so you're speaking to an experience that your potential client can relate to. They've experienced it, and you're bringing them into the story, letting her, feel that she's involved. And that's a copywriting tip that I suggest to do that, is to use you language. You're not saying I did this, but just like, hey, I'm here to help you, go from taking all these medicines and prescriptions and going to the doctor all the time to helping you have that first pain-free day. So that's going to trigger that little emotion of, oh, that would be amazing. Like, I can imagine myself there, because I'm using the you language and I'm using the emotional trigger and taking you through a little experience. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be from point A to Z all in one shot. It's just one little mini transformation along the longer path. So I think that's how you incorporate it into your copy. It doesn't have to be, you're going to feel free, or you're going to feel amazing, because then that gets pretty vague too. But you have to relate it back to experiences and stories.
So in writing content, which tags to emotions, do you have rules about what percentage, or how much of this content should be really actionable? Like, should everything have a call to action, or is it cool to just tell stories and connect to emotion and leave it at that? What do you think about that?
Well, I still go by the basic proportions that I've been taught through from business coaches, which is like 80% stories and value and 20% sales.
Yeah.
But I still think you can have call to actions in your stories and value if it makes sense. It doesn't have to be to get on a call. It could be read another article that I have, or sometimes it makes sense if you want to jump on a call to talk about this problem if you have a similar story or experience and you want to hop on a call, then here's a link. So that 20%, I think, of being actionable, or not the 20, I guess it would be the 80% of how much of that should be actionable. I don't have a hard set rule. I think it's just, you don't want to overdo it. And if it comes naturally out, then that's great. I think I don't shy away from having a call to action necessarily, but it's not, again, always salesy. And it could just be like, post below, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Share your own, what's a feeling that you're having right now, or what would you like to give up? And especially in social media, that's a great way to get feedback from your ideal client. What is your biggest struggle right now? Post below, share.
Trying to get some interaction, because we've had some folks express, I guess, some insecurity around posting in social media for a number of reasons. But I think a lot of it too is I think they're afraid to put themselves out there as a quote unquote expert and have someone disagree with them or push back on what they have to say. This comes up a lot.
Yes.
And so first of all, then don't put yourself out there as an expert. Put yourself out there as a empathizer, that you understand what they're going through. And this is how I did it. You don't have to think you know all the answers. Like, newsflash, people are not hiring you as a health coach because you know all the answers. That's not your role. So let's get that out of your head. That's where imposter syndrome comes from. So from the standpoint of writing copy and writing content that resonates with your target audience, that is actionable, I guess what I would love for you is some words of encouragement on how to get people out of their own heads and out of that sense of insecurity. What direction can some of that what kind of topics, what kind of posts, what kind of writing could people that are shy about this kind of get started down that path and feeling comfortable and putting themselves out there to a certain degree?
Yes, I could probably talk all day about this.
Okay, good. So I'm not the only one who's hearing this. Yeah.
No, and I struggle with it still too. It's a big thing, the imposter syndrome. But yeah, one training I did recently was talking about you don't want to even pose yourself as an expert. You want to tell people how you're getting them, what your process involves, like how you're getting them from A to Z instead. And that's what they're going to resonate with anyway. So that's one tip to do of many. But I don't remember if I said this in my little intro, but like, I did not want to write a book and share my story and speak. Gosh, I did not want to speak. That was totally against my grain. I'd rather sit in the back of the classroom when I was in school and only raise my hand if I had something really profound to say. Profound being in air quotes. But the reality is, what I've found out is people need to hear your story. And while it's about you, it's not really about you. It's about them, and they need to be able to relate to you. So you'll start to see, sometimes it's just tough love. Get over it. Like, just get out there. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. And one thing that really helped me when I was speaking on healthier eating, when I first started doing talks with groups of people, was like, I saw myself as a teacher and not a performer, and I know you don't want to get into too much teaching because you're talking about that earlier, but if you see yourself, as a teacher, as a coach versus an expert and a performer, nobody's expecting you to be perfect. Just show up and be real. That's something that came up for me recently, like just level up my authenticity. Like, I'm feeling pretty real and transparent with everybody, but it's like, it's still, I can go a step deeper, like, I don't have to fake anything. Just be real. Let people know that you're struggling. Hey, I don't even want to well, I guess you probably wouldn't want to say, I don't want to show up today. I don't want to, but you can say, I've seen posts where people are like, I'm really not feeling it today. And it's okay. I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to get through today, and I'll start again tomorrow, or I'll bounce back tomorrow, or these are some tips that I do to help me get through the day. So you just kind of keep it real and let people know what you're going through. And it just becomes, they're in your story. You're bringing them into the story in the same, at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I think that's one thing that's different about new marketing versus old marketing is like, I get a lot of interest from prospective clients when I share very vulnerably about a struggle or a thing I'm trying to work through. And I actually remember, this is just a weird anecdote, but one of the jobs I had when I was in marketing was for the largest sporting goods retailer in the whole country. And I would write these blurbs for our marketing efforts, and the directors would come back and say, we can't use this word we can't use the word expert. We can't say that we're the best at hockey, we're the best at golf. And I'd say, well, if we can't say that, then who can? Like, if the biggest retailer in the whole country can't say it, then who on earth is the expert at hockey, and who is the best at, golf equipment? And so there was a lot of micromanagement of the messaging, is what I'm getting at. Like, a lot of micromanaging. It had to be perfect. It has to be tweaked and edited. And I bring that with me sometimes in my current marketing efforts, but it's when I share completely raw, vulnerably, to your point, here's a struggle I'm working through right now. Or my avatar client is like, oh my gosh, she is just like me. Here, this perfectly curated Instagram feed isn't always doing us any favors.
Definitely agree with that. Yeah. And I've had to, I catch myself sometimes where I'm like, oh, I look like everything's rosy over here and we just moved, like that's not reality. So I threw in a post about, I didn't throw it in because it was heartfelt and, like you said, just being vulnerable. And I got so much response on that. I wasn't selling anything, and I almost felt bad because I was like, well, no, I'm not like, on the ledge or anything. I just want to be real. But yeah, people resonate with that, and they want to see that you're real. And then they don't want to see, if your feed looks all beautiful all the time, that can be a turnoff to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I totally get what you're saying, Erin, about the old marketing, word management coming through. Believe me, I do that. I edit myself while I'm talking half the time. So I think that you want to be careful with the words that you use, because they can send the wrong message if you're in your coaching mode. But when you're in your sharing mode, then yeah, just be vulnerable and don't be apologetic. And I don't think you have to beat yourself up while you're doing this either. Just be real.
Right.
Yeah. Well, my business coach that I have right now, her mantra is post and move. Just post and move. Don't dwell on it. Don't keep refreshing to check the insights on it. Just post and move. Get on with your day. Because a lot, the content will resonate with who it resonates with, and you don't have to micromanage it.
Yeah. And it won't always resonate with everybody positively. I had to learn to let go of that. First of all, I'm not nearly as proficient as Erin is. I haven't put in the effort to do it, and I'm still trying to figure it all out. But there've been a couple of times where I posted something that one or two people were kind of like, I disagree with that. And so this is something interesting, is I had posted something about how, basically stop blaming your body. There's nothing wrong with your body. Let's work on your choices and behaviors and what have you, and learn to love your body. And there was a gym member of mine who's transgender who really took exception to that. Right. So, and I felt I wasn't trying to make somebody feel excluded or that I didn't understand them, but there's just no way I could possibly think of every possibility and how a message or something I was trying to say was going to resonate with somebody else, and I sent them a message offline saying, I'm sorry if this came across the wrong way. That was not my intention. Honestly, when I was posting this message, I'm trying to reach a specific person, a specific type of person. And so likely there may be some things that I post that are just not going to resonate with you. And I understand that, and I hope you'll forgive me. I'm not trying to make you feel bad in any way, shape, or form. But I think you kind of have to let go of that a little bit, because, not everybody is going to resonate with your message, and you don't need everyone to. There are some very successful people that have a very unique kind of personality, point of view, that are extremely, extremely successful because they have a small group of people that absolutely love them and will buy or support or refer and advocate for every single thing they do. So you got to find that tribe, I think, rather than worrying about, the one or two people that are going to disagree with you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is about niching down too, is you're going to have an easier time finding that tribe that really resonates with you when you do.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, there will be times when people disagree with you, but you cannot please everybody. You would go drive yourself mad if you tried to do that, and
Mm-hmm.
I was at a meeting yesterday that we were talking about how the culture right now, especially in I don't even know the youngest generation. It's not even the millennials now. It's the Zs. I forget.
Z, yeah.
Z, they're, hypersensitive about everything. And so it's just people are getting more sensitive. And while you need to be somewhat sensitive and empathetic, you cannot possibly worry about everybody's take on everything. I mean, I just read a post yesterday too that I was like, well, wait, I don't agree with that. She's my business coach, but when I thought about it, I'm like, wait, I'm not exactly her ideal client. She's coaching someone a little bit different on the spectrum of beliefs, and that's who she's talking to. So I had to remember that, and then I could see how it made sense in that aspect. So you're right. You don't want to, Laura, get caught up on worrying about that, because there are people out there. I kind of remember when I was giving my first kid his bath, and it's like, oh my gosh, I got water in his ears. Do I need to call the doctor? What do I do? And then I talked myself out of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sure a bazillion other mothers have gotten water in their baby's ear, and the baby survived. It will be okay. So similarly, you might post something that offends a person here or there, or you might even have, like, I have typos once in a while. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a writer and I had a typo. But everybody makes mistakes, and you cannot worry about being perfect or pleasing everybody. Otherwise, you're gonna close off yourself and shut down, and that's not going to help you or the people that need your help. So just, again, let yourself be that vulnerable self, and of course have empathy and show respect for others.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one good checkpoint is, read it back out loud to yourself. That will also help you catch typos, but read it back to yourself. And is this going to offend me? And if not, then, go ahead and post it and move on. Like you said, Erin.
Yeah, I recently offended myself with one of my own posts. I did. I don't know. I got I don't know if you've heard much of this, Natalie. I've just kind of picked this up in the last few weeks as I've kind of been, floating around social media. But like, there's this push to become fascinating. Hear me out. This is one of the things that is like listed as one of the upcoming trends for content creators, people who want to build businesses online. The push is to become fascinating. So like, how can you fascinate people with your just like, so I wrote a post because I was very influenced by this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write a really fascinating post. It's like super just like edgy. And I wrote it and I posted it, and then I hated it all day. Like I was replaying it in my mind. Like, I shouldn't have posted. That's totally out of integrity. Message is not even in the ballpark of what my message normally is. And I offended myself with it, and I deleted it. It felt out of integrity. It felt misaligned. And I fell victim to, I guess, a marketing trend that was misaligned.
Well, now you got to tell us what it was. You can't like drop that bomb and then not tell us what it was.
Okay. The headline for this Instagram post was, I lost 40 pounds sitting on the couch.
Oh.
So, and then I explained it in the post, like I had a car accident and I was actually laid up on the couch. That was true. And in that time, I changed the way I ate and couldn't exercise, couldn't walk, but I was able to lose all this abdominal fat. But the thing is that what's an integrity for me is taking the emphasis away from weight loss. Like I don't like talking about weight loss. I don't like that glorification of like fast weight loss or dramatic weight loss. And it's completely out of integrity for me. So as much as it was maybe fascinating, it was clickbaity. That's a clickbaity headline, 100%. And it was, I don't think anybody clicked on it because I just went back in and deleted it. I think I pulled over. I was like, I gotta delete that. That was bad. I just couldn't do it. I fell victim to a marketing trend. And I think the best marketing trend, and this is what I learned when I left corporate marketing and stepped into like small business marketing, is the authentic message always lands with who it's meant to land with.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Yes. And, so there are so many marketing trends out there. That's why it's a little bit daunting to get started, I think, because people aren't sure where to start. But that's, part of why I put together some of the products that I offer. But to your point of, it's okay. Like nobody was hurt over this post that you shared that was out of your own alignment. How many people even saw it? That's the other thing about just showing up, Laura, when you were asking about that, is like, how many people are going to see you anyway? Like, not everybody sees every post that you do. Not everybody reads every email that you write, and not everybody reads the entire email. I will guarantee that. So you don't need to worry that everything is completely perfect. Yes, you want to be as polished as you can, as far as, grammatically right, and pay attention to details, but you don't have to be perfect. You can try something and say, should I be, like you did, I try this trend and I've done that too, try to do this technique. And then I'm like, tried it for a week and I'm like, no, that's not me. That's not right. And it's okay. Like your potential clients don't remember that. I think that's the other thing that really helped me get past showing up. It's like, kind of like, get over yourself, Natalie. Like people aren't remembering what you did 2 weeks ago or yesterday even. And even, for a time I thought I had to be posting every day on social media, and one coach told me 3 times a day. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, how do I have time to do this? Right. And the reality is, you don't have to do that. Just be consistent, and value is more, quality is definitely more important than quantity. And don't burden yourself with the idea of having to be perfect. And if you try something and it doesn't work, nobody's going to remember that, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the other thing. Like it's not a lot of people's life. Like we talk about this with new coaches. So people who are just getting started and they want to build a following, or they, they're in the early stages of their coaching practice. So it's like, I don't have any clients yet. What should I do? It's like, start writing some stuff, put some stuff out there. Well, what should I write about? It doesn't matter because nobody's going to see it. Just start writing.
But that's a great point. What a sense of freedom that gives you. I'm just going to start putting stuff out there. And eventually, once I really kind of find my groove, hopefully I've got like 3 people, and then I've got 10 people. But you
have a body of work.
Right.
Yeah, but then you have a body of work and somebody comes across your profile or whatever, and you've written a bunch of stuff.
Right. No, I love that.
Right. And it's, you don't want to have, like, of course you want people to see your messages, but just don't get hung up on the idea that they're going to see every one of them, even as you do grow your following. So,
yeah. So do you have some guidance and recommendation or rules of thumb, or like top 3 tips for people as far as how to make their content resonate? Is there like an anatomy of a great piece of content? Do you have a particular recommendation on a flow of how things should be structured? That was a lot of questions in there. Feel free to take that in any order you'd like.
So I like to teach a simple outline form. I'm like, go back to elementary, you guys, when you had the outline, especially if you're writing an email or a blog post, something longer. I just use this, like I call it my 1, 2, 3 outline. It's, a ripoff from elementary school, honestly. So you have a headline. It's almost like, it's what you're offering and why, what it's going to get your client, the success. And then you have two main or sub points that support the main point. And then you have 3 supporting bullet points of those 2 topics. You're going to want, and then I say to add an intro at the beginning, a summary at the end, a little recap of what you just covered, and then a call to action. So that's a starting point. That's a guideline. Obviously, you're not going to write all of that for a social media post. Right. I mean, some of the social media posts do look like that. They're that long, but but you can get started there. And if you don't want to have 2 sections and it's something shorter for social media, just use 1 section and think about it in those terms to help you get started and what to include. Okay. So I like to use that as a starting point.
Okay. So like if the headline is, I don't know, here's why you should eat protein at breakfast or something. I don't know. It's a terrible headline, but let's go with it.
Go with it.
Then there's 2 sections. So first is an intro. In this blog post, I'm going to tell you why it's important. There's 2 sections. So I've got 2 talking points that support that headline. Maybe it's about like blood sugar balance, and maybe it's about
satiety.
And then under those 2 sections, I've got 3 supporting bullet points for each. Is that how that goes? Did I get that right?
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
And no doubt, like, applies to just about anything. And it'll sound different every time because the topic's different every time and the content inside of it is different every time. And I would imagine once you get comfortable with that framework, it makes writing content super easy because you can just start with these bullet points and then elaborate.
Right. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed because, especially with health coaching, you have all this information that you've learned and can cover so many different topics. So where do you even begin? And this gives you a starting point to kind of rope it in and rein it in. But again, have your ideal client in mind, because if you're helping somebody newer on their journey, for example, satiety is probably not going to resonate with them. It might be something more simple like, here, why is breakfast important, or is it really important? And here are some tweaks that you can make to your breakfast to get started. Again, meet the person on the journey where she is. If she's further down the road, then sure, she'll know what those terms mean. But if not, then this is a good example of how your ideal client comes into play with your copy.
That's a great point, because she probably doesn't know the word satiety, but she knows what it's like to feel as though she has to carry a granola bar in her purse every single day.
Even that dodgy headline that I just invented, like, why is protein important for breakfast? She doesn't know that that's the thing that she should be caring about. She doesn't know that that's the thing. So you're right. Like, you just gotta, sometimes like we say this all the time, coaches sometimes get stuck in their own echo chambers. Like, I want to impress my peers with my knowledge of what I know, but that's not who you're talking to.
Right. You're right. Here's another kind of broad group of, client health coaches that want to specialize. This has come up a couple of times. They want to specialize with people with chronic inflammation.
Oh yeah.
Could you be any broader? Could you be, wait, what? So, I mean, you've got to bring that. What kind of inflammation are we talking about? Is it like that? And first of all, the term inflammation, most people they've heard of it. They don't really know what it means. They just know something hurts, and it hurts because of something else. So I 100% agree with you, Erin. We got to be careful about the words that we use, and that we're not just talking to other coaches, and we're indeed talking to the client who doesn't have our language and the vocabulary that we use. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's a litmus test that you have to kind of sniff that out.
Well, yes, that's actually one of my tips. It's borrowed again from Yoast. Do you know Yoast in WordPress, the SEO plugin? YOAST.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has, checkpoints for SEO. So they want you to be able to write, they ask you to write like a 5th grader can understand it. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a huge, it might even say 3rd grader now. I'm not sure, but whatever, you get the point, right? It's like, bring it back to language that your reader can understand, and that not only breaks through jargon in your industry, but it breaks through, if you're global, it breaks through cultural barriers and your educational barriers, of course, and other barriers that can come up just by keeping it simpler.
We learned of, this is going back a long time ago, one of our guests told us about this Hemingway app that does the same thing. You paste your copy into this browser window thing, and it will, I don't know if it highlights the words that are way beyond third grade comprehension, or actually it rates your words on a grade. So like, oh, this is grade 10. You want to try to get it down to like kindergarten or pre-kindergarten if you can. I'm super guilty of that because I want my posts to be like art. And that's something I need to get over. And probably lots of us need to get over that, actually. Simplicity is like, the message has to get across. It has to land. It doesn't have to be a work of art.
We're so busy worried about how other coaches and other professionals in our industry view us that we lose the fact that what we really need to care about is how our end client views us. And do they feel like they can trust us because we're talking to them? That's a great point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I dabbled with the Hemingway app briefly, but I haven't used that since. I use Grammarly sometimes just to do a check, but I don't believe that it doesn't check SEO unless maybe you use the paid version, which I don't. But
well, it sounds like you have a lot of ways that you help health coaches to clarify their approach to messaging and who they help. So I think, since we're kind of getting close to wrapping up here, why don't you share with us a little bit about how you work with coaches? Like, how does this go? What's the coaching relationship like with you?
Sure, thanks. So I have two ways that you can work with me. You can either offload it and say, please write this for me.
Really?
And yeah.
Erin is all over that. Erin just perked up.
And of course, like, we'll have conversation if you work with me that way. It's not like your voice won't be heard. I'm very adamant about picking up your voice and letting it be yours. But but I can just walk away and write it for you and give it back to you with some revisions involved. But then the other way is through coaching, and this is for the coaches who really want to do it themselves but need a little help. And that works as in private coaching sessions by the hour, or I can work with you on a certain project. One person was interested in learning about blog writing specifically, so then when you get into things like that, I will just price it based on what the project's going to involve. So it's kind of more project-based pricing at that point, but we just figure out what you need to accomplish and come to an agreement on what that looks like. Probably a weekly call virtually, and then some exercises back and forth, or getting on a virtual call and screen sharing the copy and showing you the changes I would make. And all throughout it all, I definitely, like, I have a lead magnet creation session as an example. So that involves an hour of coaching where we're talking strategy. And then I walk away and write a page of your lead magnet. So there's various options that I offer, but it all wants to come from your voice and what you're doing. I really feel strongly about that. So most of it's gonna, if I do writing for you, I'll give you like I still call it a creative brief. Did you have that term, Erin? So I still use the old creative brief to like get your download of what you're wanting to accomplish with this. And that will help me write more effectively for you, or help you write more effectively. So there is strategy and background work involved, but it is all for the sake of being more authentic, and more authentic is going to end up getting you more clients.
Yes.
Well, I just love this because I think there's two areas where a lot of people feel insecure around this kind of stuff. Is public speaking, to which I tell everybody, see if you can find a Toastmasters near you. But this idea of writing for this purpose, that people that just don't identify as good writers, they've struggled with it all along. So to have a resource that you can either just offload because you've got other things, right? Yeah. You just need to bring in clients. Or for those that, to your point, I want to learn how to do this. I feel like I should learn how to do this. I love that you have a tool and a program and a process to help people learn how to be better at this. I just think that's fantastic. So awesome. Where can they go to find out more?
Yeah, I would suggest checking out my website, which is nataliegensits.com. I can leave a link, or it's NATALIE GENSITS.com. And on my website, you have the options of how to work with me. You can get access to my free Facebook group and some other freebies that I offer on there as well, just to help you get more knowledge around the ideal client and getting started on the strategy pieces.
Awesome.
Love
That's
it.
great. This is great. This is such a needed category for coaches. People get really tripped up on this stuff. So I'm grateful that you're doing this work.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
And one other idea, like you can start your own private group with your coach friends and practice videos inside there and getting used to speaking, doing that. So
That's a great idea.
Just get started. Just start practicing.
Yep.
We love it. Just get started.
Mm-hmm.
Great ending note. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, Erin and Laura.
This podcast was brought to you by Primal Health Coach Institute. To learn more about how to become a successful health coach, get in touch with us by visiting primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or if you're already a successful health coach, practitioner, influencer, or thought leader with a thriving business and an interesting story, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us at hello@primalhealthcoach.com and let us know why we need to interview you for Health Coach Radio. Thanks for listening.
Well, if you've been listening at Health Coach Radio, you'll know that we're all about raising the voices of practicing health, fitness, and nutrition coaches, but most importantly, helping to further legitimize this exploding industry. Erin and I have disclosed often that we're on the faculty of the Primal Health Coach Institute, founded by none other than the health and wellness legend Mark Sisson. And we've interviewed dozens of guests from just about every different health coaching program you can think of, and who practice in just about any conceivable way you can think of. But our allegiance is to the health coaching industry in its totality, first and foremost. It's our desire to continuously and unapologetically lift and promote this industry that nudged us to create this podcast for you in the first place. It's this same yearning that encouraged us to take the educational offering at our health coaching school to the next level. We are so proud to offer the Primal Health Coach Level 2 certification course, which, when combined with our primary course, the Primal Health Coach certification course, not only satisfies the educational requirements to sit for the board exam, but is specifically designed to teach advanced coaching mastery. You will work closely with a small class of peers through this 12-week, very intensive, live online classroom experience to learn how to execute a coaching relationship that is truly transformational. You'll learn and practice how to ask powerful questions, what it means to hold space for your clients, but most importantly, how to actually do it. You'll learn about the craft of motivational interviewing and the nuances of habit change, goal setting, and accountability, and how to nurture your client's own inner knowing, their intuition, and their own self-efficacy, so that they will graduate from your care a truly transformed person. You want a big, successful, powerful coaching practice. And maybe you're devouring our episodes looking for the silver bullet that's going to launch your business into the upper echelons. We've said it a million times and we'll say it again. Your coaching skills are what will make or break you and set you apart for success in this field. So if you're looking to level up your coaching skills, and maybe dial up your credential and become a board-eligible health coach, look no further. You can learn more about PHCI's Level 2 program at primalhealthcoach.com/level 2. But if you would value talking to a real person about your path to being a masterful coach and perhaps a board-certified coach, book some time with me personally. You can access my calendar at primalhealthcoach.com/call. Or just call me. You can reach me at 844-307-7662. Thank you for listening to Health Coach Radio, and I hope I get to talk to you soon.